Hello, guys. I am doing an interview with my father, who as well does archery. He is camera shy, so you guys will not be seeing him, but that is okay. I have to respect his wishes. Um, but we're going to be doing an interview about archery because he's the one who got me into it, and we're going to see what he thinks of some of these questions I came up with. Here we go. First question.
Hello, everyone.
Um, what first sparked your interest in archery?
The hunting, the being out in the woods and hunting, the being out and wanting to crawl in in the tall grass, trying to get close and spotting and stalking, and the self discipline of it.
Can you elaborate more on the self discipline for everyone?
Oh, I can elaborate all through self discipline as we go on through this.
Okay, okay. Um, who's been your biggest influencer or mentor in the sport?
Ooh, there's a few professionals I enjoy and I will reach out to occasionally here and there. One is Angus Moss. He's a great archer, amazing archer. I see him battling through things and getting some top finishes at times and trying to climb to get to that podium as a pro. Um, Dan McCarthy's one of my top pros. I would love to be able to shoot with him one day and just throw all my ideas through him. Um, who else? I do like the younger archers, and that's been doing it for a long time and knows what they're doing too, especially as a tech, which is Kyle Douglas, Tim Gillingham,
What do you think of Levi Morgan?
and Levi Morgan. Yeah, he's another one too. He's a very good archer. I would like to see him do a little bit more though on the paper end, the indoor end.
Hmm. Let's see. Okay. Um, how did your early experiences shape your style or approach to archery?
Well, for what I know now, I wish I knew then and everything. I would I would have used my training of what I've learned if I what I know now. If I could have used it a little bit earlier and understood some things earlier, I would definitely been using it then, which would have been better.
And
But
that's
you live, you learn, and it's always a process of elimination of what you find out that works for you and doesn't work for you.
and that also goes back to self discipline, right?
Yes, completely.
Okay. Um, was there a defining moment when you knew archery was going to be more than just a hobby?
When I got my first deer with my bow,
I'm going to guess you enjoyed it a hell of a lot.
be, beyond enjoyed it, and especially my first deer being in the woods that morning, wake letting everything wake up around you and everything, and how magical it was listening to the birds and everything, just waking up that early and everything. Uh, yeah, and then to have that deer come in at walking up at 13 yards and putting that pin right in those lungs and everything, amazing feeling. I think everyone should experience that once in life.
Okay, I see. Um, how has your perception of the sport changed since you began it?
Which part of the sport? The hunting part or
I
the
would say all of it.
target?
All of it.
All of it?
If
Okay.
you could put it into like a couple sentences, all of it.
All of it? Okay. Well, on the hunting end, I don't look at the hunting end as a sport. I look at more as a way to provide sustenance for yourself and for your family and everything else like that.
So providing
Harvest,
food.
providing food, providing a harvest.
Mm.
Primitive man did it. We should all do it. I'm a firm believer in the sense of, if all this world and our infrastructure goes down in the next week, how's the population going to survive if they don't know how to harvest their own animals?
They won't. Everyone will die
No,
because,
not everyone will die.
but I mean,
Because the people will struggle, and it'll weed out the strong from the weak.
we'll probably end up going back to the Great Depression.
We could, but a lot of things will bounce back pretty quickly.
Probably.
And then now, when it comes to the target end in that sport itself, I think in some ways some of the sport needs to change, and we need to get some really big sponsorships in there, because the way I look at it, archery is better than golf, but then yet golf has a bigger following.
Right.
And they have bigger sponsors and bigger pay and everything. And then not when it comes to how archery is and all that, where we need to have bigger sponsors for things like the ASA Nationals and all of those, and the IBO, and the Feed a Field, and NFAA Field, and all of that.
So does that also go back to what's it can't think of it right now.
Okay.
So now we're gonna move on to our other questions.
Yep.
What's the single most important element to shooting form?
To your shooting form, I always feel, and I've learned more now, is you practice the basics, you keep your form basic, and you keep driving it into you and everything, whether it's a mantra as to keep your form the same each and every time, and being consistent with it. I think, there I see and hear a lot of information, doing a lot of things, and listening to this pro or that pro and everything else like that. So when I worked with Blake Jerome, which is another phenomenal person to work with and everything, when I was working with Blake Jerome for a little bit, and he was helping me with some of my coaching and everything at one point, we brought it back to the basics, and I like that. And part of how I practice, I like blank bailing, and pulling and putting that, your basics on your stance, your basics on your shot repetition, your pull through, and your push through when it comes to shooting. I'm a big firm believer on, you nail your basic shot form first, and have that with great consistency, your cold shot will also be better, even in a hunting situation or your first shot coming out of a gun in a tournament.
So you're kind of like me. You believe that going back to the basics on certain things, even though you've done something for
Uh,
50 years plus, is the best because the basics will teach you everything.
well, your basics is going to give you a better foundation, and then you're going to know what's working for you. If you're going to try something out and do a process of elimination, whether it's a change up with your arrows, your FOC on your arrows, or your setup, or if you changed or tweaked anything with your draw length on your bow and everything else like that, if you don't have your basic shot form down, you can go down so many rabbit holes. It's you can drive yourself into a world of madness, and I've learned to pull back from that and be basic about it. Even how I sight in and make my sight tapes now too, for any of my bows, whether if I'm going to go do an ASA or a 3D shoot or anything. When I go to the range and everything and sight all that in, um um
You're locked in.
I want to be locked in. I want to practice my form and make sure my form is
It's the
just
best that
as
it can be.
is the best that it can be at that time. And it's simple. I believe in the simplicity.
Simplicity is best
Sometimes,
when it
not
comes
all
to
the
certain
time.
things.
When it comes to certain things.
What's your approach to improving accuracy at longer distances?
Well, I like the French tuning method.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So French tuning method meaning you start from a close distance and you work your way back to your longer distances. And if I have to adjust my rest and my sight, I want to have a better grouping at that long distance, and then practicing at long distance. Practice, 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 and practice.
Practice makes better.
Practice makes perfect, but there's no such thing as perfect.
So better. You will be better every time you practice.
Yeah, but archery is a sport that as you age, you learn to adapt to your different conditions in the conditions that you're shooting to know what works for you and doesn't work for you. Because there can be different scenarios that work for you and don't work for you.
Right. So like,
Uphill, downhill, anything like that.
so let's take this. Tim Gillingham could have something that works for him, but that couldn't work for you at all.
Exactly. But I can take that idea and maybe run with it.
Right.
And,
And
and
elaborate
maybe
it and make it so
and
that it
maybe
can fit
adapt
you.
to it. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you adapt to your technique for different weather or lighting conditions?
Well, if I'm out hunting and everything else like that, I'm gonna have some type of basic setup.
Right. Because
Whether
you
if
don't
I
want it
can
to be
have
too
whether
complicated.
if I can have a light or not, I like to use multiple pins and everything in my on my hunting setup. And with my hunting setup, um I don't like to hunt past a certain amount of yards. I won't shoot anything maybe past 50 yards. We're in the New England area and everything. You're not going to shoot anything past 50 yards unless if you're really open wide fields. And half the time, the transitions that are around here and everything is all short distances. You'll be lucky if you have a 30-yard shot sometimes.
All right, our last question. Um, what's a common mistake that you see beginners make, and do you have any ideas of how they can fix it?
Yes, big ideas. So when I first got into the sport, I'm glad I listened to some of the advice that my former work colleagues gave me and everything else like that. And I think everyone should take this advice. Don't buy anything brand new. Go to a pro shop, get properly sized. Buy something used. Don't buy anything brand new. You don't know if you're going to like it or not. And if you do like it and you do fall in love with it,
Cool.
cool.
But if you don't and you hate it and
It's not for
you're
you,
spending
and
money
you
and
just spent all this money, because there's bows that can cost you a few $100, and there's bows that can cost you a few $1,000s right now in today's market,
yeah,
and all that in between your whole setup.
especially those newer bows they're coming out with from
And
like Matthews and
yes, and on top of it, you're getting that bow customized to you. A pro
right.
shop is going to know more than you. In time, over time, you're going to find out what actually works for you and doesn't work for you. The more you go down the archery rabbit hole, But on that end and everything else like that, go to a pro shop. You can pick up yourself a 5, 6 year old bow for a few $100. Get a dozen arrows, 2 dozen arrows. Probably even go on Facebook Marketplace. Maybe find some local people that are throwing archery targets away because they don't know what they are. Go pick up some targets and everything else like that. Join a club. There's Facebook Marketplace. You can find used bows too, or anything else like that. But do a little bit of homework. But I never suggest to go buy that brand new, especially if you don't know what you're looking for. If you don't know if you're gonna even like it, and you don't know what style of bow that you want. If you like the recurve more than the compound, or if you like a longbow more than the recurve, or so forth. So, you know, archery can be a very expensive sport if you want it to be.
But it can also be a cheap sport. Not like super cheap, but
You can make it cheap for yourself over time. But you just want to do your homework and research. I always suggest, if anyone ever comes up to me and asks me, "Oh, can you show me how to shoot or anything? I heard you do archery and all that type of stuff," and I don't mind doing a lesson with them. There's a bunch of people I've taught and showed them.
yeah, I've done a
Some
lesson on my channel, so
some people and everything, you know, I've they love the recurve, and you can teach someone some of the basics in, I don't know, a solid half an hour to 45 minutes. But to get to another level in that, even for a beginner, because if the beginner likes it, they pick it up, they love it and everything, they're going to want to advance.
right.
You want to keep going, and you can keep going and going and going. But I also look at some of these bows and these bow models and everything nowadays. Like, even for, I'm going to throw names out there: PSE, Matthews, Bowtech, any, any of these big name brands on these bows and everything else. Like, yeah, some things have changed, but guess what? They're still all the same. They're still a bow. And in a model bow that's 3, 4, 5, 6 years old still is just as good as the new ones that have been coming out too. Yeah, maybe some things have changed. The cams changed. They're a little bit more aggressive. Maybe a little bit more weight and poundage on the pull before it lets off and everything. But I think I've been learning to use that terminology of KISS.
What does KISS stand for?
Keep it simple, stupid. You practice that KISS mentality and everything, and you keep all of it simple and your basics simple and all of that. I think that goes a very long way.
I remember that question. I've asked a couple people at school, and they said archery doesn't count as a sport. What do you think of that? Would you count it as a sport,
I
or
do count it as a sport because it takes almost just as much self discipline as if you were going to go play.
basketball or football?
Yeah, any of them. They may not be so much more
Physical conditioning, but
physical condition, but your physical condition does matter. It does. Your shoulder conditioning does matter.
and your back too, your shoulder
Your
blades.
Yeah, your back, and that's why I was harping on and saying and everything else like that before, of keep keeping your basic forms simple for yourself so it's easy for repetition. And even when you're a beginner and you go to that bow shop and everything, you know, take take some lessons. And if you're just beginning and everything, do it once a month. If you to just to understand your form more, and and all that. I mean, when I first started off and everything else like that, I did that occasionally and everything, and worked with the shop and worked with a pro and all that, and a great coach and all that, because archery is still, once you have that 20% down on your shot form and everything, the other 80% of it is mental.
So the physical part is the 20%, and the
Yeah.
mental part of you being able to want to do it and withstand the pain that you will go through of slow training days of this and
Yeah,
that.
but your training shouldn't be painful. The only part of your training that should be painful is the time that you're devoting. That I will say. Your training shouldn't be so overly painful for yourself. You, you got to keep it simple. Even if I'm standing here 4 or 5 yards away from my target and blank bailing, because I know that's what partly works for me too, then I stand at 4 or 5 yards and blank bail and get a number of shots in. I mean, because I believe in not overtraining tip. I think small amounts consistently, even through the week or through the month, go a long way, but you do need to build up an endurance if when you're starting an indoor season to go through that.
What do you? Okay, last question. This
Okay.
is not on the thing, but what do you think makes a good coach?
A coach that can give you good constructive criticism and can tell you, hey, I feel like you're doing this wrong. You can improve it by doing this. And you willing to open your ears and actually listen and take that coach's advice and everything, because guess what? They're a coach for a reason. Especially when you work with a national award winning coach at times.
So people like Tim Gillingham, Levi Morgan, and
Oh, they've worked. I'm sure over the years they've worked with coaches. Hey, I've worked with a coach named Roxanne too. She's an award-winning coach, and I'll tell you right now, she's also a hell of a shot and a hell of a hunter too. She really is. Great person on that.
what about her personality?
Awesome, awesome, and she'll tell you, and she'll break it down simple. Hey, why'd you drop your shot? Hey, why'd you drop your backhand? Hey, you're dropping your front hand a little bit too much. Are you feeling too fatigued? Well, then put you down to your bow for a little bit.
So she cares, but not only does she care, she was
She's
willing to help
giving,
you.
she's willing to help you, but she's giving you the right advice for that time, especially as a beginner, or even as you get a little bit more advanced and everything. It takes time. It all takes time, but it takes a lot of consistency. And I think also what separates a good archer from a beginner, or someone that wants to advance more from someone that just wants to shoot on the recreational side, is willing to take that constructive criticism and willing to put in the work.
Okay.
All right. We'll finish up your other questions another time.
There will be a part two.
There'll be a part two. Sounds good.
That's it, guys. Give me my subscribers back, please.